Okay, finishing up the consonant section of the class. In this video, will probably be a little bit shorter than the preceding ones, which had a lot of details in them. The last section here is about some kind of confusing sounds in English that are vowel-like consonants or consonant-like vowels or both, or it's really hard to tell. And there's a lot of sort of IPA uncertainty that surrounds these as well. So what do I mean here? Well, the English consonants l, r, n, and m are sometimes described as having syllabic versions. So there's a syllabic l and a non-syllabic l. So syllabic n and non-syllabic nasal. And when you do want to call something syllabic, you indicate that with a diacritic, which is this little mark that you add to the ends, that you add to the main character in an IPA symbol. The syllabic one is this. It's this little under thing that's kind of like a comma. Actually, sorry, this one's supposed to be vertical. I thought it was diagonal. It's vertical, the syllabic mark. And so, yeah, some examples here. The final syllable in Google might be written as a syllabic L sound. Wicker, that final syllable might be a syllabic Chicken, final syllable might be syllabic N. And rhythm, that final syllable might be syllabic M. So what does that mean, that they're syllabic? Well, generally I think it means that it's hard to hear or to see a second vowel in words like this: Google, wicker, chicken, rhythm. If you look at these in an acoustic program, it's going to be hard to make out, there's clearly two syllables here. Chicken, two syllables, but you can't really see the second vowel. It just looks like an N consonant. So yeah, it's hard to see a second vowel, but they nonetheless count as having two syllables, and so we say that, well, maybe it's the consonant that heads the second syllable, that it's the syllabic consonant. So again, this is kind of like a phonological analysis more than a phonetic fact. It's also entirely possible to think of these in English as being preceded by unstressed vowels in words like chicken, except that these are produced with so much overlap in time. You're sort of producing both sounds at the same time that it's really hard to see any part of the schwa that isn't affected by properties of the following na. Right? And so I'll often write these not as syllabic consonants, but as sequences of a schwa followed by a consonant. You're free to write them either way. I think in English in particular, there's not much in the way of arguments for saying that these are really syllabic consonants rather than schwa consonant sequences. You can use the two freely interchangeably. I often use these ones because I just find it easier to think about. Now, just to make things a bit more complicated, unlike n, l, and ma, really does have a version that is unambiguously a vowel or the head of a syllable in English. Unlike the syllabic, other syllabic consonants, this can occur in either stressed or unstressed syllables. So one of the reasons why I don't necessarily like these marks for the other consonants is that they really only occur in unstressed context where you would expect the preceding vowel to be a schwa. And so I think it's just as easy to think of these as schwa consonant sequences. You can't do that for r because r occurs in, recall, stressed syllables with this quality. This is the vowel, for instance, in, what's the example here? First, right? This also comes in an unstressed version, which is confusingly written like this. If you think it's a rhotic vowel, as in a word like wicker, that final vowel. So you now have a choice between writing that final vowel as this rhotic schwa, as a sequence of a schwa followed by an or as a syllabic right? So pretty confusing. Just use whichever one comes easiest to you. This difference is really a difference in phonological analyses, and it's not going to be important right now in the semester. Just pick whichever one makes the most sense. I tend to use these kinds of descriptions because I find them easiest to understand. But if you prefer one of the other ones, that's fine. For the stressed one, though, there really is no other option other than to say that this is a special rhotic vowel that contrasts with other vowels in English. This English pattern where we restrict syllabic consonants to having only sonorants, as in nasals, liquids, and to some extent glides. The syllabic version of a glide is just a normal vowel. Right? But that pattern where only those consonants have syllabic versions and obstruents don't, so there's no syllabic t or syllabic g in English as far as we're aware, that's pretty common cross-linguistically. You find a lot of languages that work like that, maybe not exactly the same, but in the same general way. Other languages, though, allow much more leeway in this regard, and so I just wanted to show you as a final thing this really neat data from Tashlit Berber, and so this is a language that's spoken in a language family really that's spoken in the north of Africa, in Morocco, Libya, and possibly a few other countries. And in this particular variety of Berber, the nucleus of a syllable, right, can be a vowel, although it can also be any other kind of consonant in the language. Right? So some examples here shown in 2, and this is from a paper by Rashid Ridwan. There's this first word, tsti, which is 2 syllables. The first syllable is ts, and the second one is ti. And you can get ever more elaborate sequences of just obstruents in this language that have different kinds of nucleus types, right? And so you can see this, every kind of vowel and consonant in the language is potentially the head of a syllable. And then there's a visual representation of the waveform down on page 7 here on the left. That top window is a waveform showing you basically that there's lots of noise in this word but no vowel. And the bottom one is called a spectrogram, and the only thing to notice here, I'll explain spectrograms next week, but basically where there's vowels you expect to see lots of black down low in the spectrogram. Where there's fricatives you expect to see lots of black up high in the spectrogram. And what this is showing us is that this entire word, which is 4 syllables long, has no vowels whatsoever and only obstruents, noisy frication and stop releases. And so this is a heavily inflected word. You sprained it feminine, where feminine is probably an object marker. And you can see there's not a vowel anywhere in here. This is a 4-syllable word that's something like right? I'm not pronouncing that exactly right, but it's something like that. And so, again, English restricts syllabic consonants. If we're even going to call them syllabic consonants, it's only certain kinds of sonorants. But in other languages, you can get a wider variety of different syllabic consonants. So that's the consonant unit.